Hey everybody, welcome to another week. A few things to go over, some math to look at as we prepare to start working on the hoops, and I wanted to show you a few other things as well. So for those of you who've been following on my Instagram account, making some progress on designing my own snare strainer. I like how it's going so far, but I've learned a lot, as obviously you do, and thankfully I'm just using some scrap maple that I had laying around and a couple of old drum pieces. This is obviously a tension rod, and this tube piece right in here is the connector piece that links the tension rod to the lugs on my IOT kit. Got a few hundred extras of these because I ordered wood hoops and they sent me both the metal hoops and the wood hoops, but that's like 20 years ago. So I've got these all laying around. Anyway, it worked well for the pivot, but I'm going to abandon the wood or the metal piece for something else, but I'm not going to show the build process of this until I have the design finalized. Then I'll walk through building it with some really nice wood. Anyway, this design has a problem. The location of the pivot with respect to where the strings for the tension or for the snare wires will connect. They would connect out here. The pivot point's right there. Any tension on the snare is just going to pull that right back down, and it's not going to stay in place. So what I need to do is shift the pivot point this way, so it'll still link up on the vertical piece like that, but then it needs to basically have a swing arm down here, the pivot be down here, and then the wires or the strings will, as long as they're inside toward the shell from the location of the pivot point, it will snap into place really easily and it will actually function. So I've got a design in mind. I'm going to start working on that, and hopefully I have that not locked down in a week or so. We'll see. In the meantime, we need to make hoops. Okay, calculating hoop sizes is a pain in the neck, and I don't make wooden hoops often enough for it to be second nature the way a drum shell is. I want the hoops in their blank form to be 1¼ inches thick or wide. They'll be about an inch deep. But I don't want to do lots of layers. So to make sure that I have enough strength, because it's going to be end grain to end grain joints, I'm going to do lap joints all the way around. I think I know how to do it. I think it will be really cool if it works. And the wood I'm going to use was cheap enough that I'm not terribly worried about it if I screw it up. Calculations for getting it all to work. So the shell diameter is 14 1/8 or 14.125 inches. I want an extra 1¼ so for the diameter that adds 2½ inches altogether. So my total diameter for the hoop, for the outside of the hoop, is 16 5/8. Look at the radius, of course it's half, and blah 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 blah. The individual segments are going to be 5 3/8 wide, 1 7/8 deep or thick, whichever way you want to look at that. End grain or long grain going across this way. And if I want the lap joint to be 1½ on each segment, that means I have to add a total of 3 inches to that width. So my individual segments before cutting the lap joints will be 8, or the half laps will be 8 3/8. Oh, and the angle for the bevel or the miter, in this case it's a miter, will be 18 degrees. Okay, after some fine tuning, those are nice and flush. I'm really, really happy with that. I was actually worried at first about this, because obviously that makes the inside diameter quite a bit larger, and I only gave myself 1/8 of an inch of leeway. But what I think this does, you know, the shell is full of highlights. You know, it's got the 3 different woods contrasting. Since I've got the identical angle there the entire time, I mean, that right there is just the opposite of an 18-inch angle, or that is the 18-degree angle, rather. 18 right there, 18 right there. So I can just cut a bunch of triangles, and once I get the shell, or the rim blank, the hoop blank, glued together, it'll be a piece of cake to just get a little highlight piece in there. That would be really cool. And then it'll be easy to plane it down on, well, either just sand it down or use the router to flush it up before I put it on the rounding jig. All right, now I've got a lot more to cut. That took a lot longer than I thought it would, and it's going to take a while. So as long as I got this angle right, this should be a fairly easy glue up. I hope I got everything right, because if I didn't, it's going to be a lot of work for nothing. Now I'm trying to figure out what I need to do first. I'm considering, my first thought was to glue the hoop up. Problem with that, I don't want glue squeeze out to get in the way of this insert, and unlike so many woodworkers, I am not a clamp champ. I don't have enough clamps to clamp this in. You know, I'll do the regular hose clamp around, but I need to do a clamp. I need to clamp each joint together here as well. Then this also needs to be clamped in both this way and this way. I don't have enough for that. So what I'm thinking is line this with some tape so the glue doesn't stick to it, and then use that to make sure I can flushly, is that a word, flushly? So I can glue these little inserts clean and flush, top and bottom, onto each stave or segment. Okay, yeah, I know this is ugly, but it works. 36 degrees off of this 18-degree angle is exactly what that requires. It'll work. I just need to nip these corners off so that I can clamp it properly. It shouldn't be so hard. But I don't want to spend a bunch of time setting up an entire extra fence, so this is how we're doing it. It will work. Always, 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 always do a dry fit before you apply glue. I'm really glad I did. Clearly, I did my measurements wrong somewhere. I don't know what happened, but I need to go do all the math again. Better to be too big than too small. But dang, what in the world happened? But I still got to get a video out this weekend, and I'm a little frustrated. So I'm going to call it here, and you'll see on the next video how it turns out. Next video, one way or the other, I'm gluing up hoops. Thanks, bye.